Hello, everyone, and welcome to this update of our pathways and programs at Cranbourne Secondary College. My name's David Coy, College Principal, and it's my absolute pleasure to be going through some of this information with you in this presentation. Firstly, I'd like to start off by acknowledging the traditional owners of the lands on which we work and learn, the Boonwurrung Nation, and acknowledge that education has occurred on this land for thousands of years, and pay my respects to elders past, present, and emerging leaders of the community, and recognising the ongoing living cultures of our First Peoples. I'll jump straight into our presentation today. So the purpose of why I'm coming to you is that there's been some significant changes to senior certificate structure for Year 11 and 12 across the state. And there's going to be some implications for our school, obviously, specifically Year 11 and 12, predominantly Year 11 at this point. But there's also some significant changes to how we're doing our Year 9 and Year 10 program in relation to those changes at the senior end of the school. There's also some timetable structure implications that I'll be running through briefly with you today. At this point, there doesn't look like there'll be any significant change to our start and finish times. But in terms of how we structure student programs within the day, there will be some changes to that moving into 2023. Also, opportunity at this time of the year, in light of the changes to senior certificates and also Term 3, when many of our young people are thinking about their pathways and their subject selections, course counselling, etc., is to really highlight how important it is that these conversations around pathways, they're ongoing. With our young people, and I encourage you to have these conversations at home as well around planning for different pathways and really reflecting on the strengths that our young people have, while also providing opportunities to explore new things for them, focusing on interest, skills, enjoyment, their abilities, and as I said, we're also looking at, well, what other things might they not know about that they can apply their strengths and skills to? So in that way, pathways planning becomes something that's quite ongoing for young people based on the conversations that we have at school and that you have at home, their experiences, their reflections on their learning and reflections on those experiences as well. And I'd really encourage you to keep that in mind. Okay. A couple of images for you. It can feel a little bit like this, trying to find your way through a maze. Our young people get a lot of, through those conversations, they can get a lot of different advice. Should they go this way, that way, or is there another way? And the last image I want to show you is something that I think will resonate with people, is that sometimes we can think of success as a pretty straight line, pretty straightforward thing, but we all know that it can be a little bit messy. There can be a lot of twists and turns, and there can be a whole range of different things that influence your decision making in order for you to be successful. We want all of our students at Cranbourne Secondary to be successful, and it's through that messiness that you can see in the image there that that some real learning and real understanding can occur in order to help our young people make some really, really good decisions about what pathways options they have ahead of them. Our programs need to really support and facilitate that messiness, if you like, of understanding different pathways. And that's in part what I'll be talking to you about through this presentation. But firstly, we'll talk about why there's some changes to this. So the Department of Education and Training and the Victorian Curriculum Assessment Authority have made changes to senior certificates in Victoria starting next year. The key part of that change is that the Certificate for Applied Learning, the VCAL, will no longer exist as of next year, and all students will be working towards a VCE. Within that, there will be a vocational major, which bears a lot of similarities to the VCAL certificate of the past, but with some significant changes as well, and we'll be talking about those in this presentation. In terms of the scope of those changes and how they're going to affect things, as I said before, Year 11 and Year 12 will be affected, but there's also some deep implications for how we're structuring our Year 9 and Year 10 program at the school. And as I said before, some timetable structures changes within that. Hopefully many of you would have seen this in the media, and I know that we've included it in our Facebook posts. These are some of the images and some of the language that is being used around the changes. So many talents, one VCE. And I'd encourage people to have a look at this through the VCAL website. If you just even just plug this into Google, many talents, one VCE, I'm sure you'll be routed to a lot of the information that's there. And really at the heart of these changes is making VCE subjects, VET subjects, making them really broadly available to everyone. So students have got an expanded range of things that they can choose from as they move through their Year 11 and Year 12. In a bit of detail now, the VCE vocational major, which is the certificate that will be replacing VCAL, you can see the diagram there on the left. VCE is really the parent certificate. Within the VCE is a specialisation area called the VCE vocational major, and then you see that other rectangular box there with VET in it. And we'll talk a little bit about VET as well in this presentation. Now, VET is compulsory for vocational major students and optional for VCE students. And I would encourage all students to really be thinking about, are there VET certificates that are suitable for their learning? In terms of the vocational major, one of the big differences is the credit structure is the same as the current VCE, which means we need to provide increased access to VCE subjects for our vocational major students. It's a change to a 2-year certificate completion for a VCE vocational major, whereas in VCAL you could do a discrete intermediate Year 11, and then you could do a discrete senior Year 12 in VCAL. Now, vocational major students, it's a 2-year certificate, not single year ones. There'll be an increase to the amount of on-site class time is what we can see for students in the vocational major as well. And we'll have a look at a couple of possible timetable structures for those students in a few moments. And with that, it's my view that there'll be an increase in expectations for our vocational major students as they operate under a more VCE structure. You can see there over on the left underneath the diagram that students study a minimum of 16 units over the 2 years, 16 to 20 units. I think our model has them studying up to 22 and can include structured workplace learning and other VCE studies. And that's really what we've aimed to provide. In terms of students' study scores and ATAR, that remains an optional thing for VCE vocational major students. It is able to be done, but it is optional. In a little bit more detail now, you can see that our VCE students, straight VCE students in Year 11 have 6 subjects with an optional VET and even optional SWL. It's more likely that they'll be undertaking a VET rather than SWL though for standard VCE. And then standard VCE as you move into Year 12 is generally 5 subjects. You can see the vocational major there below, the VCE VM. There are some stipulations on the different subjects that you need to do, but there's plenty of room for an expanded subject selection within that. In Year 11, for VCE VM students, it is 6 subjects with a compulsory VET, and SWL becomes optional. And then in Year 12, we would envisage that students go on to do 5 subjects as part of their VCE VM. VET would largely remain compulsory, depending on how many VET credits students have generated in their previous years, but that would be the basic model. You can see students would study up to 22 units, and they've got to pass 16 of those with 4 sets of those 3-4 sequences. And for VCE, as always, they've got to be, there's the stipulation around English that you can see on screen. And for VCE VM, there's stipulation on English or literacy, numeracy or VCE maths, work-related skills, personal development, and VET units also. While we're talking about VET, it's worth mentioning that we have a huge range of VETs that are accessible at the college, as well as being able to access them off-site if they're not available at school. It's important to note that many VET subjects, certificates, what's called VCE VETs. So they include a study score that's generated in the same way as a standard VCE subject. So if you're a VCE student, you can select a VET and it can contribute towards your ATAR because it generates a study score. If you're a vocational major student studying a VCE VET, that's optional for you to get a study score, but it's highly encouraged for you to do so as well. In terms of how VET is structured, most of the time at the moment at the school, in fact, I think 100% of the time, it's in a block and it happens once a week. We've been looking at our timetable to see which VETs are able to run as part of the normal timetable, so structured during the week, and students would go to their VET subject in a similar way to other subjects that they study at school. That's something that we're working towards next year. VET in itself provides excellent pathway opportunities into apprenticeships and traineeships or into TAFE. And as I said before, VET can be included as part of a standard VCE program, as many of them are called VCE VETs. And there's people at school that will be able to talk students through which ones of those are most suitable for them. It would be amiss of me not to mention Head Start when I talk about VET as well. And at one of the other major changes that's occurred with the state government is that Head Start is the leading group that will be managing all school-based apprenticeships and traineeships. And school-based apprenticeships and traineeships allow students to be completing their schooling while also starting their apprenticeship or traineeship and earning apprenticeship and traineeship wages while they're still studying at school. So it's a fantastic opportunity for the right students that have a real focus on a particular area. There's multiple Head Start clusters across the state, and at Cranbourne, we're lucky enough to be the home to the outer southeast cluster. And for those of you that follow us on Facebook, we always post when a student has landed a Head Start apprenticeship or traineeship. It's a fantastic thing for many of our young people. And yes, we have had many sign-ups over the last couple of years, and I would imagine that will increase as there are numerous opportunities that the Head Start cluster based at the school present to our young people on a weekly basis. In terms of the Year 11 VCE vocational major, what will it look like specifically as students, if students select this? It needs to mirror the existing Year 11 timetable in terms of access to subjects, and that's really important. The current 3-day program, which is pretty much the norm, and some students have 4 when they have a VET on site. So current 3 or 4-day program really will start to shift for many students to a 4 or 5-day on-site program, depending on the VET that you select, if it's offered at school, or if you are able to find a structured workplace learning. That obviously won't be happening at school. We'll have to adjust timetables around that, but we can see a real shift from a 3 or 4-day program to more of a 4 or 5-day program for our young people. The other change is that in the past, we've been running VCAL electives in things like food and art and woodwork. They will cease, but students will be able to select a VCU unit in, say, food studies, or a VCE studio arts subject, or in fact, any of the VCE subjects if it fits within their timetable. They'll be able to choose those as opposed to the discrete VCAL electives. So currently, it's what it currently looks like for just about all of our VCAL students. They've got Monday, Tuesday, Thursday at school, with Wednesday and Friday where they're off doing a VET or structured workplace learning. It's likely that students might end up with a timetable that looks like this, where they've got classes at school for 4 days out of the week and maybe a VET on a Wednesday or a VET on a Friday, or in fact, it could be multiple days or any day during the week where they may end up having a VET, and we'll have to design their classes around there. And it could even end up that if the VET is running at school and running through the timetable, students are on site 5 days a week with their VET as part of their normal subjects. So for our Year 10s, thinking about Year 11, really you're presented with 3 main options there. You can see them on screen. A standard VCE is option 1, which is a study score and an ATAR, and we don't move away from that. If you're enrolled in that type of VCE, you're going for a study score and an ATAR. It's not an unscored situation, and your pathway, you're looking towards university or TAFE. Option 2 there, which I would encourage many students to think about, is a standard VCE, but including a VCE VET. Again, study score and ATAR, and also it gives you the ability to move into a VCE VM vocational major if required, but starting that way, you're looking at a pathway that's university or TAFE. Or option 3, you're looking at a VCE vocational major where you are doing a VET certificate, you might be doing a structured workplace learning, and really the pathway options there are apprenticeship, traineeship, employment, and in some cases moving on to TAFE as well. They're your 3 main options. This leads a little bit into our Year 10 program changes. What I've highlighted for people hopefully is that the VCE vocational major, students need to generate more credits as they move through Year 11 and Year 12. And that really got the college thinking about, well, how well are we preparing our Year 10 students for that change? And the aim of our changes at the Year 10 level is to really improve student preparation for the demands of Year 11 and Year 12, support students to meet those increased credit arrangements in the VCE VM, expand the choice and accessibility of VCE and VET for Year 10 students. Currently, as it stands, our timetable structure, it's not an easy thing for us to achieve for a Year 10 student to be studying a VET or any of the VCE subjects. We need to make that easier for our young people to undertake those studies. Obviously, when we're looking at students to be in Year 10 to be doing a Year 11 VCE or VET, we'll be looking at the range of data that we have available at the school to do with student attendance, SWPBS credits, grade point average on reports, or the testing that we do around on-demand and PAT testing, NAPLAN results, etc. All of those things we'll be taking into consideration to make sure that that students are suitable to be moving into those subjects while they're in Year 10. In order to do that, we need to make our Year 10 cohort align more closely with that senior end of schooling as opposed to the middle years. At the end of the day, we would be envisaging that more of our Year 10 students, as I said, are accessing VCE, VCE VM or VET prior to starting Year 11. What it will look like. So students undertake 6 subjects at Year 10 at 8 periods a cycle, which means that their timetable structure mirrors that of a Year 11 and Year 12 to make things a bit more accessible for them. English and maths obviously remain standard, and that's at 8 periods a cycle. And then we've got other semester-based electives where some of those are compulsory. You will need to do semesters of PE, science and humanities, but there's electives within those that you can choose. As well as a whole range of other electives that students can choose from. And I'd encourage people to look at the course handbooks to get more detail around that. The offsite VET taster programs that we've been running in the past, they'll transition to be on-site VET certificates. So as opposed to going off and doing little parts of VET certificates offered at TAFE, we would much rather have our students on site where we can support them more. And undertaking a VET while they're with us in Year 10, if that's their pathway option. At the end of the day, this is what we'll see: more Year 10 students accessing VCE and VET classes at school and gaining more credits as they move into Year 11. Now, in order to be thinking about pathways at the senior end, that also begs the question of, well, how do we do that going back to Year 9? What does how well does our Year 9 program support pathways conversations, reflections, experiences as students move into the senior school? And we've been working with our students. We've had student forums. We've been working with our staff to look at what our Year 9 program looks like. Our aims for the changes at Year 9 is really about broadening horizons and building deeper aspiration for our Year 9 students through exposure to learning experiences that occur beyond the classroom. So they can really start to put some of those skills and abilities and interests to the test and gain some more experiences that they can reflect on, and that improves the quality of the pathways conversations that they're having. As part of that, how do we improve their preparation for senior schooling? How do we extend them at Year 9 so they are thinking more clearly about what options are ahead of them through 10 to 12? The other thing that we wanted to focus on with the aims of this program is how do we really deepen that sense of connection with one another, the school and their broader community. As part of that is building confidence as well. So better understanding of students' skills, their interests, their abilities, and a greater sense of confidence as they're moving into year 10, 11 and 12 when they're making pathways decisions. What will this look like? So we need to expand the elective subject choice for students, which we'll be doing. English and maths time allocation remains unchanged, so you still need to do English and maths as well as some other compulsory electives, but we're expanding our life skills program, and that moves to be 10 periods per cycle, so 10 periods over the 2 week, with 1 day per week devoted to a life skills program with some changes to it, and we'll run through briefly what those changes will look like. So it may end up that students have got standard classes at school for 4 days out of the week, and 1 day, perhaps a Wednesday, they might be doing what we're calling a life skills program, which will have more immersive electives in there. We'll talk about those briefly in a moment. So that Year 9 program, what we're envisaging, and our students seem quite excited about this as well, is in semester 1 for that 1 day a week, there'll be a whole range of cohort and form group-based experiences that the students won't be able to elect. We will be driving what they look like, but students remain in their form groups for the majority of time during semester 1. And the next slide will go through what some of those activities look like. Semester 2, students will be able to branch out and select term-based, immersive and experience-focused electives, and they'll run for sort of 8 to 9 weeks. And they'll cover a whole range of things that students can choose from. And we'll be working with our students in terms of finding some of their interests and then aligning them to the framework that we'll be using to deliver those subjects. As I said, driven by student choice, but they won't be in form groups. Students will split up and they'll be allocated according to what their areas of interest might be. So if you think semester 1, there's a huge range of things that schools need to be working on for the benefit of our young people. And you can see some of the range of things there. So respectful relationships program, all of the formative assessments that we do with students, deeper, more meaningful Indigenous education, wellbeing education experience, guest speakers, excursions, getting out to universities and TAFEs and other workplaces, the Moresby and learning pathways, goal setting, careers portfolio work that can really support our young people can happen in that first part of the year, as well as preparations for semester 2. And you have a look over in semester 2, students would be selecting a term 3 immersive elective and a term 4 immersive electives. And these could range, in a whole range of different things. I don't want to let the cat out of the bag of what they might look like, but they would be linking really strongly to our school values. So learning, care, contribution and community. So how can those programs, those immersive programs, get our students up and out of the school, maybe working with a local primary school, maybe working with a local employer, maybe working with another community organisation around their skills. A really good example is this year we had many of our students, we had a group of about 20 or so students work with a local primary school to provide all of the sport umpiring for an inter-school sport day. That's a fantastic way that our students are getting out, connecting with more people, contributing to the local community, as well as building on some of their skills and talents. So there's some real opportunities there that we're looking forward to sharing with our Year 9 students to prepare them as they move into Year 10, where they can get improved access to VCE and VET subjects, so that when they move into Year 11, they're making some really smart pathways decisions around standard VCE, VCE with a VET, or VCE vocational major. In terms of the next steps, I'd encourage you to engage in these conversations with the young people at home, contact the school if you've got any questions, and what we'll be doing through this part of term 3 is working with our students in their different year levels around the learning experiences that are going to support them to be making some fantastic pathways decisions as we move into 2023. We're very excited about the changes that we're making at school. We strongly believe that our students will benefit from these changes, and we look forward to sharing in their continued success with the broader school community. Thanks very much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you soon.